We're broadcasting. Okay, so good afternoon. Welcome to the 5th Digital Classicist London seminar for this year, 2016. We're extremely happy to have a local speaker from King's College London, Valeria Vitale, who's going to talk to us about rethinking 3D visualization from illustration to research tool. There is, if you haven't read it already, there is on the website for the Digital Classicist some recommended reading to back up this this seminar. You can read it afterwards rather than before. That'll also work fine. So I'll hand over to Valeria.
Thank you, Gabby. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Okay, I was told that this year I'd say the framework of the DigiClass seminar was going to be a little bit more pedagogical. So at the beginning, I thought, okay, because I meet more and more people in classics and history that are interested in 3D, and they ask me, they started asking me a lot of questions about it, and I'm always happy to talk about it. So I thought, okay, maybe I could use this opportunity to give a brief introduction to 3D visualization, maybe explaining the differences between imaging and modeling, or some examples of the most popular techniques and how they are applied, in what fields they are applied. But actually, we already did a little bit of that during the Synoikis DC program. So if you are curious about 3D visualization and you want a sort of soft introduction to it, there are a couple of classes. I mean, all the program is very cool, but there are a couple of classes on 3D that if you're curious, you can go and check out. They are online, they are on GitHub, they are on YouTube. So I thought, okay, I might do something else this time. I will take a step back and talk about why should we use 3D visualization in classics or in ancient history? Why it could be a good idea to use 3D visualization in the investigation of the past. So I thought of taking this chance to talk a little bit about a misunderstood technology and a misunderstood methodology. Because if you look around, if you do a little bit of research, you find information about the different technologies. You find information about, what is laser scanning, what is 3D modeling. What you don't find so easily is, some information about why the researchers decided to do that. What is the added value of 3D visualization to this project, to a project in classics, in ancient history? And, if you look at many of the 3D projects that are around, the answer to the question, why did we do that, seems to be, I'm not saying it is, but seems to be just because we could, which I believe is not enough in an academic context. I mean, we need to make a better case for it. And what you usually see in academia and in cultural institutions are very often this kind of images. This is a lovely image from a project that is called Byzantium 1200. I want to clarify that I'm not criticizing this project in any way. I just wanted to show you a beautiful picture. And this is what most of 3D visualization projects are. Very, very pleasant, beautiful pictures that you look at them and you think, wow, I mean, I would like to be there. It's so great. It's not only it's very realistic, it's better than reality. It's hyper-realistic. And what strikes me when I look at these kind of projects is that they are illustrations. It's like, when an editor is, it's making a book and says, we had a lot of pages with text, we should stick an image here. That's how it feels. And it feels like, something that has been used to visualize a closed research. Someone did the research, reached some conclusions, and then someone else illustrated them. And, I think this is not very exciting. This is not what I want to do. And of course, I'm not one to tell people how to use 3D visualization in their research, but I think that it would be much more interesting if we could use 3D visualization to do, something else, to ask questions. The problem, though, is that this is how 3D visualization is often presented. And, once I was talking with a classics professor, it's a very, very, very informal chat, and we were talking about cinema. And this professor was telling us that, she saw a movie, and she was saying, you cannot really build the success of a movie on special effects. And, we all agreed, we nodded. And then she said, no offense, Valeria. And, I genuinely wonder for a few seconds, why should I take offense? But, apparently, 3D visualization is kind of perceived as special effects, which, it's an amazing job. It's not what I'm doing. Because I believe that, I'll take a step back because actually I skipped a slide. Forgive me. One of the problems with hyper-realistic and amazing graphics, there are a few. These are the three that I want to talk about. The first one is, let's say, communicative. Because actually it has been proven that these very realistic, very, very detailed graphic, they are destructive and overwhelming for the audience. So actually, they fail in what they are supposed to do better, that is public engagement. The second one is methodological, and this is the one that I think is the most problematic, because the more detailed, the more realistic an image is, the more it communicates an idea of certainty, which when we are dealing with the ancient world, I believe it's very much inadequate. And if you think about it, because about the ancient world, there are so many more things that we do not know than the things that we actually know. The details that we are adding, they are very likely to be entirely speculative. So the more detailed the image is, usually the more speculative it is. And the third one is conceptual. That kind of bothers me a little bit. And it's why? It's supposed to be beautiful. I mean, when this thing started, I don't know. But yeah, 3D visualization in an academic context is not special effect. But the problem is not, with the people that say things like, yeah, no offense. The problem is that the audience expects for academic 3D visualization something that looks like cinematic 3D effect. And I want to show you something, a video from YouTube, I have to ask. Okay. A video from YouTube that is here, I think. No? It's just another tab. Yeah. But it's not this, it's not this. Oh, yeah. Thank you. Okay, so that's the video. Again, it's the promotional YouTube trailer for a 3D app on the Roman city of Aquileia. Again, I don't really know much about this project. I'm not talking about the project. I'm talking about how the project is presented, is advertised on YouTube. And just a few seconds. So, I mean, that already makes the point. It looks like the trailer for a movie. The music is, is the music, it's Game of Thrones. And look at, all the attention is on, wow, look at the reflection of the light on the shiny marble. It's hyper-realism. But the problem, I believe, and I should go back to my slides, yes, and then, voila, is that this is what the audience expects. So people, that advertise, try to give to the audience what they want. So it's kind of a vicious circle that I believe someone should break at a certain point. because, you know, the expectations of the audience, I'm afraid, are these. Are, you know, this kind of graphic are basically Assassin's Creed. And again, I have nothing against video games. I'm particularly into Assassin's Creed. But the difference between Assassin's Creed and a 3D visualization in academia, in my opinion, is not budget, and it's not how many people work on it. It's not that we should aim at this, but we don't have the money. We should aim at this, but we don't have the time, we don't have the skills, we don't have the people. No, I mean, again, that's what I think. I think that, you know, this sort of video game and a 3D visualization for scholarly purpose are two different products. They have different purposes. They should be different because they do different things. And this distinction is much clearer in, you know, 2D traditional illustration. So it is pretty clear to almost everyone that this image, that is a lovely portrait by Raffaello, it's a different thing from this. You know, this is an illustration for an archaeological book. So this, as an aesthetic purpose, it has to be beautiful. This as an informative purpose, and it, you know, it accomplishes well. I'm not interested in the fact that these lines, you know, are a bit, you know, wobbly, or that it's not a perfect drawing. I don't care, because what is interesting in this drawing is the information that is in it. It's the shape of the entrance of a tomb. It's the shape of, you know, whatever, it's the shape of that. So we have two different images that do two different things. One is aesthetic and one is informative. Of course, you can also be Leonardo da Vinci and do both, but I think that this is an unfair expectation to have, you know, on researchers. So when I show my model to people, sometimes, you know, they look at it and they say, "Oh, that's interesting. When are you going to finish it?" No, it's finished. That's how it looks. By the way, this is not my model. I didn't want to get that personal. So this is an image for Digital Karnak that is a project that uses on purpose a very simple graphic style. But, you know, if texturing and lighting are not relevant to my research, they're not the point that I want to make, why should I add information that is, you know, distractive and is probably entirely speculative just to make it look, I don't know, pretty, attractive, beautiful? I think that would be a mistake. And so what I think the 3D visualization should be used for is, you know, being a digital lab. And I apologize for not resisting the temptation to illustrate the concept of a digital lab with the image of a digital lab. It's a virtual space where you can test different things. You can try things, you can compare things, you can make hypotheses, you can check if they work. You can discuss things virtually. And I think that 3D visualization really discloses its potential when it's not used to, you know, to just make visible a closed research, but when it is used as a tool to investigate the past, to look at things in a different way. So what are the questions that we can ask through 3D visualization that we couldn't have asked in another way? So what is, you know, a truly appropriate way to use 3D visualization to produce new knowledge? So in other words, why is spatial information crucial? Why it is actually interesting to look at ancient artifacts, putting them in a spatial context, why it's important to have 3D information. And of course, the first answer that, you know, springs to mind would be, you know, because of context. And, you know, I'm sure that everyone here would agree that, yeah, context is important. They teach this to us, you know, when we are very young. So of course, if I tell you, okay, there is a beautiful statue in a museum, and that's very informative and that's very relevant. But then we discovered that the statue was part of a group. And of course, you know, the our level of understanding of that statue, grows and increases, and we start asking, okay, what was the relationship with the other statues in the group? And then we discovered that this group of statues was in the peristyle of a villa. So we maybe start imagining, okay, what else was in that space, and what were the spatial relationship between that? And we see layers, of contextual information adding on top of each other, and then we know that there is a pool, and the statues are reflected and in the water of the pool. So, the whole picture becomes more interesting and more complex. But that's obvious. That's something that we all know. That's something that everyone that works with the ancient world knows. So what I want to do now is finding a few examples that are, stolen from my own personal research, my experience, research of other colleagues, in which a bit of spatial information actually really changes the way we look at things, the way we look at ancient artifacts. It's a little bit of an experiment. It's, it's very simple, very straightforward, but I hope that I will, I'll give you an idea of what I mean. And then I will transfer this concept to a 3D environment. So I will show you a 3D visualization project that actually applied that sort of approach. So the first bit of spatial information that I want to present you is location. So let's start with an inscription in Pompey that says that Calidus, the Thracian gladiator, is the delight of all the girls. So if I tell you that this inscription was found in a taverna, you probably picture, something like that. Killer smile, yeah. If I tell you that the same exact inscription, same words, they have been found in the dark, slightly damp, sad cubiculum of the gladiatorial barracks. So it's, kind of likely that Calidus wrote that himself, or maybe another friend was kind of making fun of him. The picture, it's a little bit different. It's not the gladiator, that gladiator anymore. So again, it's the same exact words in another location. They became another artifact. They tell another story. And if we pick this concept and bring it to a 3D project, I will tell you about this project that I was working on some years ago. And it started from this mosaic of, it's called Mosaic of a Guard Dog. It was on display at the British Museum some time ago. It's usually in the Museum of Naples. And this mosaic was found in the House of Orpheus in Pompey. And as a project, I wanted to put this mosaic in context, because we said, context is really important to understand how artifacts were received and used. So, I started from my map and I took measurements. I went to Pompey, I started building my 3D model, and then I went placing my dog on the map. And where would you place it? It's a sort of Cave-Canem mosaic. Where would you place it? I have two non-classicists here. Where would you place it?
At the entrance? Yeah.
At the entrance, near the door. That was my guess. Because, you want people to know that you have a dog. That's kind of the point, Either because you do have a dog, or either because you want people to think that you have a dog for you. It might be cheaper to say that you have a dog than actually, buying a dog. So I placed it there. Then, I was like, I'm all about documentation. I'm all about transparency. I'm going to find, the exact citation where the archaeologist says that, that they found the mosaic there. Sadly, after I checked the records, I discovered that it wasn't found there. It was found there, at the interior of a cubiculum next to the entrance. So that changed the perspective to me. That changed the way I looked at it, because it wasn't a Cave-Canem sort of mosaic anymore, because you can't see it from the street. Actually, you can see it really well, not even from the atrium, because it's in the interior of the room. So, with this new idea in mind, I started doing some more research, and I looked at other mosaic dog, Cavicanem sort of mosaics with dogs in Pompeii or in Rome, and I noticed something that, you know, these two that are actually at the Fauces at the entrance of Roman houses, they look really ferocious. They have chains, like, you know, you should hope that these chains are strong enough. And they always show their teeth. And, you know, they look like they're going to eat your soul as well. But now that you have seen this, now that you know that it wasn't at the Fauces, if you look again at that dog, it looks more like a puppy to me. Now that I know that it wasn't found there, and maybe it's not, maybe it was a ferocious guard dog as well, but now I can't help looking at it differently and making new hypotheses. So I don't know, maybe it was recycled from a previous house, maybe it was the decoration for the room of someone that was really fond of dogs, maybe it was the dog's room, I don't know, but the hypothesis that I made after knowing that it was found there and not where I expected it to be were different. They changed. Now, let's go to size, another crucial bit of spatial information. So if you find an electoral sign in Pompeii, something that says, I don't know, vote for Charlotte Rouchet because she's going to really make things right. And you expect it, you know, to find it, as you see in Pompeii, written very big in a public street, because that's what you want from an electoral sign. You want everyone to see it. You want, you know, a potential voter to see it. You want your patron to know that you have actually written that. So that's what you do. But if the exact same words you don't find in the street, very big in size and in the street, but you find very, very small, kind of this size, in the interior of a private house. Then again, same words, but different artifact, because that is not for everyone anymore. That is not, you know, advertisement anymore. It's something else. And I don't know what it is because, you know, nobody really does. It could be someone that was practicing their electoral writing skills. Could be someone that wanted to wish good luck to the person that was running for office. It was a commemorative thing. Was it a joke, you know, a private joke between people? I don't know. I have no means to tell. But now, the way I think of that inscription, that it wasn't about Rouchet, but I couldn't, you know, I couldn't find the exact one, so I used Rouchet. It's different, but it's a real example. It's there. It's in Pompeii. It's different. The same words, but shrinked. They are a different artifact. Again, they tell a different story. And now let's go to a 3D environment, and let's look at this. That is the hypothetical reconstruction of the Theatre of Pompey in Rome that was done by Martin Blaseby, the late KCL. And you know, because you studied it, that the Theatre of Pompey was massive, was huge. But I'm talking for myself. I didn't understand how big it was until I saw this and realized that, I don't know if you can see it, this dot, this black dot there, that's a person. So this is how big a human actor would look like in that space. So once you realize that, you start thinking, okay, there is no way they could, even recognize a mask from that distance. It would be, I believe, difficult, to have any sort of narrative interaction, because I think it would be, quite challenging to differentiate between the various actors. I don't know. And what could you hear from that distance? Probably very little. So maybe they staged something else. Maybe they staged choreography. Maybe they staged fight. Again, I don't know. But now I ask different questions, because I know that it had to be something different. It had to be something different from what they performed in a in a regular theater, in a smaller space where you could hear and see things more easily. And okay, and now we have my third piece of spatial information. Oh, by the way, at the end of the seminar, if you have other examples that you want to, to bring of spatial information that has really changed the reception of an artifact or your understanding of an artifact, I would be really, really happy to hear about that. So I will use it in my next seminar. So this mosaic, this floor mosaic, it's in a Roman villa in the city of Modena in Malta. And okay, you can see that there is some sort of 3D effect in the decoration. And you see now it's kind of nice. There are some shades around this sort of swastika-like pattern. And it's, it's certainly an interesting bit of decorative art. But there is one point of the room from which this mosaic, that is, definitely interesting, becomes something exceptional. Becomes an incredible 3D effect that looks like, a maze, looks like a futuristic city. But the full effect of this mosaic, you can have only from one point of view. It is the same decoration, but from that point of view, the 3D effect is maximized and it looks much better, it looks much more exciting. So I haven't been inside that place, but as a 3D modeler, I wonder, okay, what's on that side of the room? How is the room arranged? Who had access to that side of the room? Who was meant to enjoy this sort of privileged view in the room? And because I always want to give you an actual 3D modeling example. This is a project that was developed by my colleague in Mainz, and I'm not even attempting the German pronunciation, let's just call it inscriptions in their spatial context. And what they did was they imaged a church, a medieval church, and then they used this virtual environment to annotate and to investigate the relationship between the artifacts that were in the church. And one of the important, the interesting things that they found, and they used this tool to investigate, was that the complex visual relationships between stuff. So what you could see from different points in the church, so from the different benches, and what you could see at different stages of the liturgy. And actually, I think that they even discovered that the direction of the statues we're looking at was relevant in this very, very, very complex web of visual angles. And last, because I felt really bad not giving a last example about Pompey, I thought, okay, I want to find one of my favorite things in Pompey that are, illusional architectures. Sorry. Because, Romans were really, really fond of point of view, so they are really a rich pool of examples for this spatial approach. And I'm not sure I managed to find the perfect examples, but I like this one. That's the house of the large fountain. And you might notice in the garden that you don't have a full colonnade because, well, if you spend all your budget building a very nice fountain, maybe you can cut something on the colonnade. So what is important is that you have columns to be visible from the entrance. So all your neighbors will think that you do have a killer colonnade. So look, perfect. And I was, I always find this kind of amusing because I always wonder, when the illusion breaks, who are the people that, are allowed to discover your true self? So I was looking at more houses, and I found another example that I thought it was interesting, and I got so and I got so engrossed that I actually started building a 3D model of it to find an answer, but I'm not going to show it to you because my supervisor is here and another might be listening, so I don't want them to look at any sketchy things that I've done. So this is the house of the small fountain, which is already, I found very amusing because I think that already, you know, tells a story of envy, even if it's completely made up, because they are one next to each other. So I like to think that they kind of hated each other because they were competing for who had the best fountain. And this one really puzzled me because, okay, you have the columns, you know, so your neighbors, you know, are sorted and everything. But then, you know, they have these two other columns as well. And I thought, okay, this is really, you know, this is the perfect example because how are you going to find out why the layout is like that? You can make hypotheses if you build a model of it. So again, I'm not going to show it to you, but I can tell you that actually from the entrance, you only see one. You only needed one. So if you really, really, really wanted to, you know, spare some money, you could have made it with just one here. And your neighbors, you know, the passers-by, they're perfect. You know, they're going to say that you have a fantastic colonnade. This one is actually only visible, the second one, when you enter the tablinum. So you want to keep the illusion for, you know, for the people that really come and talk to you. And that's okay, that makes sense. These two are actually still invisible from the tablinum. So who is supposed to look at these two? Maybe, I don't know, the people, maybe one of these was a triclinium, maybe it built, you know, a nice view. I need to investigate the view from these two rooms, but what else I found out is that there were also fake columns painted on the wall, so probably there was also an interaction between three-dimensional and two-dimensional. So I will also put this in my model, and I think this could be a nice essay for a module in 3D visualization if someone was looking for ideas. And okay, so I'm gonna finish. So what I wanted to present with this talk is a different way to think of 3D visualization. And you know, I prepared this sort of, you know, four kind of oppositions. So what I would like to see is, you know, 3D visualization not be considered just as a technology, but as a methodology. So not just a show off that, okay, look what we have done. We have the 3D in our project, but using it to say, okay, these are things that we have discovered because we have investigated the space through a model. And so forgetting all this aesthetic madness, we don't want people to go, wow, in front of our models. We want people to look at the models and say, oh, that's something that I didn't know before. I have learned something new from that. And what I would really like, and this is what all my PhD is about, basically, is that the final product is, yes, it's important, but it's not the most important thing. The most important thing is, how did we get there and why, and what was, you know, in the middle? What were the research questions? Why we decided to use 3D visualization over other approaches, and why we decided to use that specific 3D visualization technique over other available. And so, I mean, last, to go back to the title of this, going from an illustration that is just, you know, it's just a pretty picture, it's just close, it's just a snapshot, to a research tool, something that you use to ask questions, to look at things in a different way, to investigate, to produce new knowledge. And that was it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Valeria. That's great. I'm just going to turn off the broadcast before we start discussing, as this won't this won't work for the, yeah, anyway, so that's